My name is John Mayer, and I've met several of you through this pinch process.
How you doing, Brad?
And we're delighted that you're here at the Art of the Pitch Talk. Greg Katikia is our instructor today, and we do this highlighting it to pinch competitors, but obviously it's open to other folks. One of the key things in the Pitt Innovation Challenge, in addition to kind of being fun, we're trying to get people to focus on problems, right? Problems in your research, and that's one of the reasons we have a pitch format as part of the competition, because as Greg is going to say, you really have to be able to tell these judges, look, this is the problem, we have the solution. And so this will be entertaining, it's interactive, so
yes.
I would love to have questions from the floor here as people shuffle in, and maybe we'll even fill up the other side of the room. So briefly, you're a Pitt grad, right? You've got an MBA from here,
right,
and
yeah.
Greg is a serial entrepreneur, has gone out, done companies, run companies, made the pitch, got the money, and done that stuff. So he's experienced, and now he's part of the Innovation Institute here at Pitt, where he helps provide those support services to people for specific projects and in general like this. So welcome and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for everybody being here today, and those that joined in. Today is my birthday, so that's why these donuts are here. So I'm not divulging my age today, but I will. I'm willing to share donuts with you. Thanks, Nicole. So I appreciate it. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. I only get to talk to one side of the room here today, which is kind of exciting. It just worked out that way, and it's nice to see that I know some of you and have met with you before. So welcome. So we're going to talk a little bit about pitching and having a little fun. So I'm going to do a lot of talking. Hopefully you can do a lot of listening. If you finish up before I do, Daniel will be by and he'll tap you on the shoulder, won't you? With a donut, absolutely. A little sugar to energize you. So as you just heard, I'm delighted and proud to serve the University of Pittsburgh as an executive in residence. This was a job I've done after being a serial entrepreneur for many years. So it's my chance to give back a little bit and help the university commercialize, particularly in the areas of software and information technology. And I know that some of you, not all of you, are involved with information technology and software, or software is a part of your invention. It may not be primarily, but as software is eating the world, many of you are involved in some aspect of delivering software as a part of your invention. If you're not, it's okay, because what we're going to talk about today in terms of the art of the pitch really is a generalized way of pitching your idea and being successful. Also, as mentioned, one of the things I've been involved in 14 startups. I like to tell people I've been professionally promiscuous. So I've been involved in a lot of early stage, back of the envelope, literally in the garage with no ideas, but try to figure out, as we just heard, what is the problem that customers want to solve? What is the problem that we want to go out to marketplace with that we may be aware of, and we want to validate that in some way? I've raised over $73 million in venture capital and other forms of fundraising. And I know some of you are very successful at doing fundraising as well, and getting grants and getting money for your programs. So in my world, that's a fairly large number. And what I'm more proud of is what I've returned from that money. So what I've been able to do is successfully exit from many of these organizations at an 8x times the revenue of that firm. More importantly, for every dollar a venture capitalist or investor has given me, I've been able to return them 16. So some of the things that I've been able to do with raising this money, we're going to incorporate in how I give pitches and how they're structured. Some of the things are not 100% related to the pinch program, because we are going to talk about monetization and going to marketplace. I'm going to involve those just as a general good pitch, and we can talk about their appropriateness for them. But it's important to put the whole thing in a framework. Please come on in and join us. And there are plenty of seats over here. As mentioned, I'm an industrial engineer. Don't hold that against me. As my father used to say, an imaginary engineer. And an MBA, but I've also attended other schools in the area. We won't mention their names. Okay, so everyone here does public speaking, teaching, or pitches of some sort, correct? And many of you have been under pressure for doing public speaking. By the way, does anyone know that public speaking is the #1 fear? Does anyone know what the #2 fear is? That is correct. Who said that? It is. Which means, unfortunately, if you're the average person, you have to go to a funeral in the near future, you're actually better off in the casket than you are giving the eulogy. In terms of fear, right? So, giving a pitch can be a very intense idea, and particularly in this discussion, it's compacted. You've got to get your idea across, you want to differentiate yourself, you want to tell your story, you want to talk a little bit about what you do, who you are, why you're different, and you've got to get that all across very quickly while you're under pressure for that. So let's try to break down a little bit about the pitch. What do you think the most important thing when you walk into that room and give that pitch that people want to hear about? And the picture is a little bit of a hint. What's the audience want to know about? They want to know about you.
What's the plunge?
Yeah. They want to get to know you, right? They want to be one, and you need to be one with your audience as well, right? So there's certain things that you've got to get across in a very short amount of time about who you are that are not necessarily explicit in your pitch, but you have to communicate by how you do your pitch and what you're talking about and the confidence and the order in which you express things. So in terms of some of those things, does anyone happen to know what are some of those characteristics that we would like to get across in some of those in a pitch? Huh?
Competence.
Competence, that's a good one. By the way, does anyone have any, you have your wallets on you, or purse or anything? So if you were to put out, and I'll be the first one to go out. I don't have a whole lot of money on me here, so I'll put mine out here. So does anyone want to match and put down some money?
On what?
We're going to talk about what you want to know from me in exchange for me collecting your money. What would you want to know? What characteristics would you want to know about the speaker? No one else is going to join me?
Get my money back.
You may. That's not that much. Come on. No? What would you want to know? If I came to you asking for money, what kind of characteristics would you want to know about me? You mentioned one, competence, right? Let's go over here and since we're on one side of the room, of course I put this all the way over here. Let's drag this over, right? What kind of things would you want to know?
Track record.
Track record. That's a good one. Competence.
Yeah.
Okay. What else would you want to know from me?
How honest you are.
Honesty. Ooh, that's a good one. That's it? So if you had $100 that you put out, all I need to do is say, I'm an honest guy, I'm very competent, and I have a great track record, and you'd give me the money.
No idea.
Ah, no, a little bit. That's good, but let's stay at that. That's a very good one. We're going to talk about idea, and we're going to talk about idea more in the presentation part of it. What are the characteristics about the individual that you have to know, though?
Then they communicate.
Communication skills?
Interpersonal skills.
Interpersonal?
Who's your team?
Ooh, I like that. Team? Let's take a couple more.
Are you a good salesman? Are you a salesman?
Salesperson? Sales skills? Anything else? Likability, I like that. Okay, so let me give you the complete list. This is the totally scientific, given to you by every lovely investor that looks at all these pitches. Here's the whole list. Interesting, we did cover some of these, but at the very top of the list was who said honesty? Very good. The very top of the list is integrity, right? Honesty. But there's some other things we want to be able to get across. We've got to get across in our pitches passion. That's one thing that I often see with people. They get up, they're a little dry, they get involved in the weeds, they talk a little bit about how their invention works. Next thing you know, people are nodding off, a little drool out of the corner of their mouth, and at the end they go, oh yeah, that was great, thank you very much. So you need a little bit of passion. By the way, and every one of you, I think, I reviewed all the videos, and I want to congratulate each of you. You did a great job on your videos. They were all very interesting. A lot of people did a great job on terms of problem solution. So that part of it was very good, and certainly that's really a lot of the essence of what we're going to talk about in the mechanics of the pitch. There were a few of them, though, that I got to say that were a little bit in the weeds that I thought to myself, I have no clue what this individual is talking about, right? So we want to make sure that we know our audience, right? And we can actually, whatever we're discussing, we can relate to them. But we want to get across things about our passion. We did talk a little bit about experience. We want to know a little bit about, knowledge. And of course, you all have credentials and skills and experiences we talked about. Your leadership, any of those things. The commitment to the idea, right? What is your commitment to this? Is it a lifelong passion? This come across here recently? What kind of commitment to this? Some of the other ones that I really like are, your vision. How big is the vision for this? You want to get that across, right? Matching your vision, it's always interesting. This is the balance, vision and realism, right? Because you want to think really big, but also at the same time, you have to start somewhere that's practical, that you can actually accomplish something. And so we want to get that idea across in our presentation. The last one we didn't mention, and I would tell you that's a really important one if you're ever going out to actually raise money, you want to be a credible pitch person, is are you coachable? And that translates into do you listen, right? If you know everything already, it's going to turn off those that want to be involved with you. So they want to make sure that you are going to listen to their input. That doesn't mean later you can't say no, right? But they want to make sure that you're coachable and you can work together. So I think some of those ideas. So here's some of the ideas. Now, of course, it's very hard to do that. How are you going to do that? You may have 4 minutes. You may have 5 minutes. You may have 8 minutes. You may have 15 minutes. You may have a half hour. How are you going to get all this stuff across? You go in and say, hi, I'm Greg. I have integrity. I'm very passionate about what I talk about. I'm a good leader. I have a lot of commitment. And oh, by the way, I listen well. Right? So we can't say that. So we've got to express that in our presentation. We've got to talk about that. So let's talk about the mechanics of how we do this and how these characteristics can get across in that. And let me do this.
I can tell you a little bit about the mechanics of the internet, right? This is in part in that context. It's 4 minutes. You will have an easel that we put up there sort of as a trap. You can use it, but you don't have to. There's no PowerPoint slides. You can have 1 or 2 members from your team presenting. Some people have brought for example, patient. But that's all perilous when you're up there. There will be 5 judges seated at a table like this. We're going to try to keep them secret from you until the event, so you can't figure out who they are. And you'll be in front of a room of probably 150 people eating dinner while you're presenting. And that's sort of the setting into which you're carrying this information.
Yeah. So how many of you watch Shark Tank? Anybody? Does anyone like Shark Tank? If you don't tell me. Okay, so Shark Tank, great show. Started out as Dragon's Den in the UK and then in Canada. Came over to the US, got a little bit reformatted for American audiences and tastes, and became Shark Tank. Now, Shark Tank, admittedly, is for appetite for television, right? So there's some things that they modify in it that are 100% translatable to what you're going to be doing in terms of a pitch. But there's a lot of things that are very instructive about watching people on Shark Tank, right, that you can actually have as takeaways. And I'm going to share with you one of the top 5 presentations. It happens to be my favorite presentation from Shark Tank. And what's interesting is you have 4 minutes. We're going to stop this video a little after 2 minutes. And then I want to walk through some of the elements of what this gentleman does. So stay with me here. I think we got this video ready to go.
With an update to a product that hasn't been changed in 1,000 years.
My name is Phil Dumas, and my company is Unikey Technology. I'm looking for a $500,000 investment for a 33% equity stake. My passion is access control. I know that sounds weird, but it really is. Now, the interesting thing about this market to me is that the key really has not evolved in over 1,100 years. That's a long time. But my product, Unikey, is the revolution of the key. I'm going to incorporate your key into your mobile phone. And now, you can take this big old bulky keychain and get rid of it. It's that simple. Let me show you how it works. As long as I'm in range of the lock, I can control it. Now I simply walk out of range, and Mark, if you could do me a favor and just hang on to my phone/key for me. You can see just a regular user has no control over the lock. They can only lock it. They cannot unlock the lock again. So if somebody leaves, they can lock the lock for you. Cool. Now if I come back into range, you'll see I gain access again. This is me walking up. I gain access to my lock. It's that simple. Now another unique thing about Unikey is is by having the key on your phone, we can send and receive keys to and from other users on a one-time, extended, and permanent use basis. So if you have a friend coming to town and gets home before you, you can send them a one-time key. If you have a maid service that comes over every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m., their key can work for just that period of time, so you can rest assured they can't get into your home at any other time. And then obviously you can send a permanent key to your spouse and your kids. But more importantly, at any time you can delete these keys. It's that simple. So with your help, your capital and experience, you can change the access control market. Thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions?
Okay, that was about 2 minutes and 6, I think, that he did that. Phil Dumas. And by the way, Phil went on. You can buy that product through, I think, Stanley. He got acquired. The technology got acquired. You can buy it online. Did very well for himself. There's a lot of great things that Phil does in that presentation. What things did you take away from that? What were some of the things that he did in 2 minutes that you thought were particularly instructive for something as you prepare for your own pitches?
Communicated the idea.
Okay, hold on.
Communicated the idea.
Communicated the idea.
Clearly demonstrated the product.
Demonstrated the product, right. Anyone else?
The keys was very sexy.
That was very good. So one of the things I think that was really terrific about that presentation was just that, right? Because he shows this elimination of the problem in a way that just dumps the keys, right? And it's clearly a very nice visual, bright line about a kind of before and after. I call that a as is to be part of the pitch, right? Because in the to be world, he's going to show you all the stuff, and the as is, you get rid of those keys, and he's talked about all the problems that they've caused. Anything else that Phil did that was particularly well done?
Really great eye contact, like looked for, a sentence at each person and just made it feel.
Absolutely. So he really looked at the judges and made eye contact with them and talked directly to them. Very important part. Didn't look at his shoes, wasn't studying his navel, wasn't looking in the sky, didn't have his head down at the notes, right? He really was engaged. He starts off by saying, I'm passionate about access control, right? And even if you don't know what that is, you kind of go, what is that, right? But you can see and feel a little bit of his enthusiasm. He defines it right away, and he defines the problem right away as well. He talks about his solution, but we didn't have to talk in those 2 minutes about the Bluetooth connectivity is a near-field connection that actually connects, and it actually goes on, and where if it sits on your phone, and it only takes up this many megabytes, and it will actually connect. No, he kept it at a level that really was very problem solution. The other thing he did very nice is he gave, in a very quick, they were almost like one sentence, stories. What were some of the stories did you pick up on?
Friends from out of town.
Friends from out of town. Everybody has friends from out of town. Oh, friends from out of town, and that's great. What was the other one? He told another little vignette story.
Maid service.
The maid service, right? And if you have that problem, you immediately go, oh yeah, I do have that problem. They come on, Wednesday afternoon, and they're afraid of the alarm system, and now I can give this key and I can delete it. By the way, how many times did he say it's that simple? He must have repeated that about 5 times in there out of his 2 minutes. And he kept up the pace. He went through everything, and just did a very nice job. In 2 minutes, he got across the whole idea. One of the better pitches, my favorite pitch on Shark Tank in the 6 seasons that it's been around. So we're going to talk about some of these elements, and I want to put them in the framework of what is expected from you from Pinch so that you can be successful. So here's the rules from the website, right? So this is how they're going to be scored. And while this is not a very granular metric, we're going to break this down so that it is a little bit more prescriptive and that you can be successful with it. So number 1 is creativity and innovation. Okay? Number 2 is going to be impact and importance, and 3 is going to be feasibility. Okay? So let's talk about all 3 of these in terms of a framework. We want to talk a little bit about who you are, what problem you're solving, how do you solve it, and how does it work. That goes to the number 1, which is all about creativity and innovation, right? Number 2, how big of a problem, how big is the market, the impact and the importance of this marketplace, right? Size is important. So we've got to talk about that, who's impacted. The last one we want to talk about is feasibility. Now, I put it in the framework of how you make money or the economics and kind of the payoff, and we'll talk about that. Now, you know, some of that is just how are you going to get it out so that people use it. And I think that's the goodness of the Pinch program and what they want to see, right? How capable are you in terms of commercialization? So some things, again, I'll talk about might be a little bit more on monetization, but you can frame that in your 4-minute pitch as appropriate. So these are the Greg Katekian 9 elements of great pitch. This is after many years of study, and I've put them together from various venture capitalists and angel groups and my own experience. And these are the elements that I think you have to get through. Now, if you do your own Google search tonight on what makes a great pitch, you will find that there are examples of 5 elements and 7 elements and 10.5 elements and 15 elements all over the place. But I will tell you that no matter how you structure it, these are usually what goes into a pitch of what makes a great pitch. We're going to talk about each one very quickly, give you some examples of each one, but this is a good framework for you to work through, because really this is telling us a little bit about who you, just like Phil Dumas did, who you are, you know, what is the problem, how you solve it, why you're different, how big that problem is, how we get commercialized, and why you, right? So we want to get through that very quickly. So the first thing I like to do is know, and someone mentioned it when we talked about characteristics, and I think it is a very important part of it, is a little bit about who you are, right? I like to tell you a little bit about, as we started off by giving me credentials and talking a little bit about who I am, right? As we started out, that gives a sense of why should someone listen to you, right? Why are you here? Why should someone listen to this? So I like to start with that. Now, different people will put the who statement in, you know, midway through or maybe at the end as a payoff, and there are agreements or disagreements about where that is. I like it up front because I want to know who I'm listening to, and I want that sense of credibility about, you know, why I should spend 4 minutes with them other than I got a free dinner or I'm a judge or whatever the reason is, okay? Starting off, and if you have some, we talked a little bit about team. If you have some star players on your team or particular things that represent some of those characteristics we talk about in terms of leadership, experience, skills, commitment, this is a great way of getting across all those things without saying we have got skills, leadership, commitment, team, because you're talking about who you are, right? And it's an introduction. So it immediately gives you credibility when you start off with.
Are you going to give us the slides?
Yes, I will.
And this video will be available online if you want to watch it or have other people watch it.
I'll be watching it tonight over and over. Just my wife and I.
Look!
The excitement never ends. And donuts. It looks like I'll take some home.
While we're in a little stopping point, I want to also say that Greg uses the language of money commercialization, and that I think it's very appropriate. This is not a business plan competition, but we're very interested in finding ways that you can get your idea actually out into the world where it's used. And that has to be responsive to the economic forces. So if you're not comfortable talking about this is how I'll turn all your money into more money, at least you could think about your project as how do I sustain this? What will make it interesting and how does it work more broadly? But
right.
We'll use the language of money, customers, markets. Those things are all relevant to your solution because you want it out there. And it has to navigate those things, even if that's not your common language.
Yeah, and I would underscore that. So we'll talk a little bit about it. Right away, we're going to go where we started this conversation earlier, which is, what's the problem? I want to go right into the problem. I want to understand that problem. And I like Phil Dumas, I like to start with a story. I think stories are a great way of getting across and normalizing things. And you can see, you can tell a story in one sentence. You can tell it in a couple sentences. It doesn't have to be this long-winded story. If you have more time and other pitches, that's a great thing. Let me give you an idea. You've heard a couple stories here. Oh, by the way, that also the story can give you an idea of credibility and belief, and it can also give you an idea how prevalent or large the problem is, right? So a good story is going to give you that sense of how big a problem this is. I mean, Phil gave us a nice example of everybody has a pair of keys and everybody hates them, right? And this has been a problem around for how many thousand years, and now we finally have technology to solve that problem, right? I'll give you a quick example since I'm a software guy. Everyone's been through a performance review in their lives, right? Let's say I'm the CEO of FUBAR Incorporated, and we run a HR performance review software company, right? And I put this picture up. By the way, I'm going to strongly suggest, even though I break some of those rules here myself, pictures are better than bullets and text. So we'll go over that in a little bit as well. So if I just had this picture and I said, meet Joe and Mary. Joe is doing Mary's annual performance. Joe hates this. So does Mary. Matter of fact, everyone hates performance reviews because they take up so much time, and it's really hard to remember how well the person did over the past year. Research indicates that employees spend 3% of their year on performance reviews, and it results in $15 billion of wasted productivity. Boom. Nice little story. Gave you a little idea. Everyone can relate to a performance review. Everyone sees a picture, but they focus on you. You've told the problem. You've told the size of the problem, and you're off to the races.
That's really true. 3%.
Those are actually the stats from that company, believe it or not. Now, whether you believe it or not, if you started off by saying, I'm a HR performance expert and I've studied this for 30 years, they may believe that $15 billion number, right? So, but that's an example of a great quick story of starting off. Now, I didn't have to tell also, by the way, all the nuances behind it either. I told the basic story and the basic problem, and I got it across very quickly, right? So it's the same, and another one you could show just a slide like this, right? And you could tell the same kind of story and relate it to everyone hating performance appraisals, right? Now, the next part we want to get to, and again, these are the most critical slides for you, particularly in this contest, is the solution slide, right? And we've got to get that across as well. So if I'm continuing on this example of this story, I want to get across as CEO of FUBAR Incorporated that we are building software that streamlines the performance review process. Boom. Very clear, right? So far I've done who we are, what is the problem, and now I'm going to talk about how I solve it, right? And I made that statement very, very clear. And I may go on, as I say here, our tool is extremely easy to use, cuts review times by 80%, and it also allows employees to submit feedback whenever they want instead of that magical once a year. Ooh, everyone can relate to that because they hate that because they know it's annual. Now, what if I want to give feedback during the year? That's a great thing. Now, the other thing I can tell you, just like you pointed out with Phil Dumas in his little day, he did a nice demo too. Did you see that? It wasn't particularly complicated. He gave the keys to Mark Cuban. He says, okay, try this, and now if I walk away from it, the lock doesn't work. So if your product, service, research, whatever it is, lends itself to some way of demonstration, right? That's a good thing, right? I realize that not everybody's does. But if you can, it's a good thing. The second thing I will tell you is never, never, never do a live demo, right? So demos are always canned because you always want to know what the outcome is. I've been selling, unfortunately, software for 30 years, and software never works when you want to demo it. You've probably been a victim of software demos in your offices somewhere along the line, and I can tell you that you want to make sure that you know exactly how things are going to work, any type of demonstration you're going to do. So that to the degree in which you can contain that and make sure that it's going to work appropriately and there's no guesswork, particularly if you have a short period of time, you want to make sure that that is done and canned and ready to go. So that kind of underscores a little bit about how does it work. I also would strongly suggest that you don't go into a lot of details. This is a trap many of you will probably be comfortable with, the how section, right? Because you know this is where your comfort zone is, and you could get very easily bogged down in a quick presentation on the how and never get to the other areas, right? We could do this, we could do that. So keep it at a level that you keep the 2 or 3 main things of how it works that relate to the problem statement and the benefits that someone can enjoy from this, and keep that quick. So this is a little bit of a trap area that I would encourage you. In watching the videos, I did notice that there was also a little bit of jargon in the how areas sometimes people got caught up on. So try to manage that and contain that a little bit. Okay, so this is the area that, again, may not be as appropriate. Hello, come on in. We're balancing the room, and we have donuts, so you can come over here and have a donut as well. A little bit about monetization, how you make money. You know, this is kind of the goes in, it goes out of, right? And what I like to tell people next is that this is the area where you're talking about how do you monetize. You know, how is this going to work from a construction point of view of what are the inputs that you need and what are the results that you're going to get on the other end. This is not the financial review, but this is basically, you know, you can look at this in construction of your contest of, you know, how are we going to get this to marketplace and get uptake and utilization, which also then dovetails on another section here in terms of marketing. Now, this slide, we've combined 3 big ideas into one area. Some people will break these down, but I like to combine this for speed, right? So we want to know, who is your customer? Who is your customer? Now, how many of you have been in a presentation where somebody says, who is your customer, and what's a typical answer? You ever hear the Fortune 500? We sell the Fortune 500, we sell the Global 2000, we sell the large hospitals. Those are lists, right? Those aren't customers. So, customers, what's your title?
Mine?
Yes.
Medical director?
Medical director. What's your title?
Lab manager.
Lab manager, right? So we want to get as granular as possible about the type of organization, the segment that you work for, but also down to the type of titles that you sell to. So the people that are concerned about solving this problem would be blah, 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 right? So the more focused you can be in terms of who your customer and who your user is, right, the better off, the more credible you are, the more you show understanding of actually who is going to benefit from this. When you get to the large, you know, big companies things, that's where it gets a little fuzzy, right? So you want to make that as granular as possible, as defined as possible. Now, we hinted earlier on about this being a big problem. We want to understand how big this market is. Many of you have stats on this already, which is great. So you want to emphasize this, how many people suffer from this problem, how many people can use this problem, how many people are dealing with this, how fast is that growing? You know, people may say, I have it's a special heart condition. How many people have that today? How many people had it 30 years ago? And how many people are going to have it 30 years from now, right? Is this problem a growing problem, a growing need, whatever? And, you know, in your case, you don't have to explain so much how you got them, but a little bit more about knowing those stats is very important. Just like my $15 billion, I very quickly, you know, covered through that. Somebody in a Q&A afterwards is going to ask that very question now. And those are good follow-up questions. The next thing, and I'll say this several times here today, is who is your competition? If you believe you don't have competition, you're incorrect. Everybody, even if you have a new, novel, first of its kind, patented double secret probation idea, I congratulate you, you have competition. So there is always the direct competition, people who do something very similar to you, maybe even directly like you, right? But you maybe do it a little bit differently or have some differentiation. There's those people who are substitutes, right? They do it in an entirely different way, but they accomplish the same goal. Then I had one boss who reminded me that in the business that I was in, that the #1 competition was apathy. People can choose to do nothing, right? Or they can choose to do things the way they've always done it, which may be manually, non-automated, or they're going to spend their money somewhere else, you know, because this problem is not that big of a problem. They can live with it the way it is today, right? So you always have competition. One of the things that ruins, going back to the characteristics, your credibility in giving a pitch is when you tell people, we don't see anybody else doing this, there's no competition out there, right? That immediately will drop you down into someone that is naive about the marketplace they're going in, despite you maybe being very a great domain expert about the technology or invention that you have. So always remember that. Okay, so the next part is, how would you get this thing to marketplace? How would you commercialize this? You know, are you going to partner with somebody? Do you have to build this? How long is that going to take? You know, and you always need some type of way of a go-to-market strategy that defines how are we going to sell to people. I happen to teach in this very room business-to-business marketing, so we spend a lot of time talking about how you build sales forces, how you do marketing communications, how you build strategies, and you know, those processes are complicated. You know yourself, if you've ever purchased something as a B2B buyer, it takes months, and there's multiple people involved, and it's complex. And your invention is not going to be something transactional like picking up a box of cornflakes at Giant Eagle tonight, right? It just isn't going to happen. It takes a long time. So people want to understand, how are you going to get this to marketplace? Is this also a time frame? Because you may be in early research and you say, this may take 2 years, and we see ourselves partnering with a large strategic partner. We need partners to help us build this product. I'm looking at Brad back here, who's partnered with a lot of the folks here at the University of Pittsburgh on software ideas and help build commercial products. So there's lots of different ways of building it out and getting to marketplace, and understand how are you going to get it in the hands of those people that you said were your customer, right? How are you going to find them? How are they going to know about you? You're going to start a company, you're going to license this to somebody, et cetera. So those are all good ideas in terms of the go-to-market. You may not be as stressed on business economics in terms of this short competition, but it's always interesting to know what is the cash you're going to receive, or how much you need to get to the next level, right? People want to know, if I'm going to give you, $25,000, let's say, is sitting there. Well, what is $25,000 going to get me, right? What milestone will I achieve? How will this? So there's money attached to this program. You certainly you don't want to do the equity ask that you see so often on Shark Tank, which starts off, with, I'll give you this much for that much of my business. But it is nice to know what you're going to do with the cash. How is this going to progress you? How meaningful is that money in terms of moving forward and progressing you? Does this take you to the edge of commercialization? Does this take you to that breakthrough? Does this get you a patent? What does this achieve for you if you win this contest, right? So that use of funds is what you usually call it in terms of venture capital. The use of funds is very important to know that, and to understand a little bit about where that takes you in terms of your journey. I like to then finalize it all for the ask, right? This is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we're here, this is what we solve, this is why you should choose right? So don't forget to ask, right? We're here because we provide something that is going to change this particular area. We're doing research that is truly novel, unique, disruptive. People love to use that word these days. Use those words and ask for it, and don't forget, of course, to say thank you. By the way, there's questions that get asked, correct?
Yeah, so there will be a 4-minute time where you speak, and then there will be a 4-minute period of time where the 5 judges get to ask you questions. And it'll be tightly controlled. So it's limited, but it is, half you speaking and then half them asking questions, which you answer there. Right.
So only the 2 people will answer, or anybody from the team can answer?
I think what we did in the past was anybody from the team could answer. Each of the teams has 4 slots, 4 positions there at the banquet, and so if you've got, you can kind of appeal to somebody at your table to say, Ted's our expert on that, and then Ted can stand up and say, yeah, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the judges? I know you don't disclose their identities, but are they scientists, business people, people who have just people from the community? Who are they?
They are all that. In fact, there are, acclaimed scientists, acclaimed business people, people from the community, people from business. So they all are all those things. And I don't think any of them have a medical degree, as I think about the list. I'm looking at Nicole here, yeah. So they're not.
Where's that list again?
It's not a guarantee.
I'll give you a donut.
They're not, unfamiliar with, biomedical enterprise at some level.
So that's important, right? So going back to them wanting to know you and you wanting to know the audience, great question. So keep in mind that they don't know that, and you've got to keep this at a level that's accessible, right? It still tells your story and tells why you're important and differentiated, but is at a level of somebody that doesn't have your domain expertise, skills, and background, right? So think about telling your brother, mother, any other person, and you probably won't be too disappointed.
Well, and another thing, Pinch is sort of an experience, and after you've done this, you'll be able to really easily and comfortably tell anybody about your thing in a couple of minutes. And anybody, at any level, you can talk to them about it because you've prepared for this unpleasant situation. We have some things that make it even more unpleasant, I realize, which what is beforehand. So at the event, there's kind of a reception for folks, most of the guests out front beforehand, but we want to have the people who are presenting in this 4-minute pitch format eat dinner before the pitch. So you come into the banquet room and actually eat dinner with the judges before you get started. So that'll be your first time when you meet them. You'll be sitting at a table prepping them for your pitch, as it were.
Tell them why it's so important. By the way, so someone asks you a question, and you probably, just to emphasize this again, so someone asks you an important question, and you say, that is a great question. Thank you for asking that question.
I personally hate when people say that because I know that they always say that.
That's all right. It's important because what it goes to is that last issue, which is, are you coachable? Because a lot of people would ask a question, they look at them and they think, what are you, stupid? You know? And you get that sense of defensiveness like, didn't you just hear what I just talked about for the last 4 minutes? So that's why you want to do that, because you want to say to that person, I heard you. And I respect that you asked that question, right?
It's a stupid question, but I respect you.
That's right. So you want to say, thank you, that was a great question, right?
That would be ours.
Yeah, you can say that, Daniel. Did you hear me the last 4 minutes?
So you spent a lot of time talking about money. How we make money? Are we going to? So is that important? You said it's somewhat important, but not really.
The criteria are up there, and
Let me go back
the
to it.
idea of impact and importance, again, are we want to know that what you're doing is going to impact some people and be important in ways. It's easy to quantify those in money, but it's not as if the judges are going to say, oh, that's a $4 billion idea. They're going to be going much more, well, that's really important to those patients, and I can see how that matters. So impact and importance. Money is one way to talk about that, and it's relevant, but not, we're not asking the judges, which of these companies would you invest in? You know, these are not companies. You're not forming companies. You've got a project. You said, look, this is something that can help individualize health or healthcare in this situation. I'm passionate about it. It's going to impact all these things. The money talk also is relevant to feasibility, right? So you're saying, we want $100,000. If we get that, we can do this and this, and that will get us to this next level.
Right.
You know, whatever that is. Again, the projects are all at different stages. Some of them are ready to go out the door and be commercialized. Some of them are early stage research.
Right.
That's fine. But it's, again, the judges are investors in the sense that they're going to decide who gets an award, but they're not investors in the sense of really actually betting money on it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not trying to say, you know, that was a great project because it returned 16-fold. That would be nice, but you know, we can imagine projects that started here and went out and were broadly deployed and disseminated through means that are, you know, public awareness campaigns, something like that really impact people, that matter. But so I want to say that putting the money in context is important. The context, you know, the money really matters in the sense that there's huge economic force on everything that happens in healthcare. And if you think that just having the best idea and being nice will get your thing so it's deployed, you'll be sad, because there are all these terrible things out there that, like, GE will walk in and say, nope, we're not going to do that. And it'll never happen. And it's not fair, and that's the way it is. So you have to kind of understand that there are these economic forces, and those relate to, you know, do they have a feasible plan for getting this out there? You know, it's like, well, everybody in the country is going to spend $100 to get this thing. Like, okay, not really going to work, you know. But there are, you know, here, this is something that, I don't know if I paid any money for this, right? But I've got one, my wife has one, but, you know, there's thousands of dollars, lots of development work in that, and there was a plan to get it out so everybody has them. And they're making a tremendous amount of money. So those are some of the ways we want you to, the business people talk about them in terms of market money, return on investment, all that. It's important to think about that because that's a way to gauge those economic forces. In terms of our own judges, it relates to when they're looking at it saying, is it feasible to do what they're saying? You know, can you ask every teenager in the country to spend $15 on that thing? You know, that's not really feasible, that kind of thing. So, and again, our judges, there are some who come out of the business and entrepreneurship community, so they're going to be thinking about, they always think about everything that way, you know, and like, oh, you know, that's fun. And some of them are always thinking, oh, I'll invest in that. So that vernacular is useful. It's not paramount here, but totally ignoring it undermines your case.
So, when you go back to the characteristics, we want that vision, but we want realism, right? So here's this vision about what this can do for this problem that I expressed to you. Here's where I'm at today. And here's what I'll do if I win this contest that will take me to here. That is a very nice logical progression that talks about the potential impact, the potential monetization, if I put it in my own terms, but shows you where you are in that timeline, kind of in the mall, you are here, exactly the same thing. I am here, and this gets me here, right?
And one of the things we'll tell the judges is when we're talking about feasibility, we're really talking about the project that you're presenting in the context of this bigger picture. We realize that $100,000 is not enough to get your thing to market. But if you can say, look, this $100,000 does this, and it's a critical step, and if we're successful here, we expect that other stuff will work out. It shows some thoughtfulness about the complexity and scope of getting it out there, and some realism about, here's the critical thing now, and that kind of thing. And because everything we look at, everybody say $100,000 will not get you that product to market.
Right.
It will never do it.
Right. But it'll take you somewhere.
It'll take you somewhere, and
And
if you can't see
what
where
is that?
that is and why it's useful, then
Right. That again, going back to that term I used, use of funds or use of proceeds, right? So what will you do with that money, and why is that important to you? Let me talk about just some generalized hints and tips. That's the basic structure. So we've talked a little bit about characteristics we want to get across. We've tied those characteristics to the mechanics of the presentation. Let me just give you some other hints and tips. Again, I've broken some of these myself here today. But always better to go with short bullet points, better to go with headlines, and the best thing to go is with images. So if you can talk to the slides and they're images, or you're just talking in general, we want to be able to focus on you. Here's a famous entrepreneur, you may know his name, Bill Gates. Started a little company, and you can see his presentation here. What are we all focused on? We're focused on the slide with the bullets, and here's this other guy that we just mentioned. And Steve Jobs, and what do we focus on? We focus on Steve, right? And so that's one of the ideas. When we get an image, we want to make sure that they're focused on you, because we go back to the thing that we talked about in the very beginning. What do they want to know about? They want to know about you, right? And they want to know about, they want to hear from you. And you want to make, as someone said here earlier, that eye contact and that credibility of getting across the passion, the commitment that you have for this invention, this idea, this research that you would like to see brought to marketplace, okay? A couple other things I mentioned a little bit. Speaking of bad slides, this is one of them. So don't ever make the mistake of no competition, even if you're asked a question about competition. Jargon and acronyms. There was one particular video that I thought was really wonderful. It was funny and everything like that. There was so much jargon in it, it was way beyond me, right? I had no idea what they were talking about. So I think particularly given the background you've heard a little bit here today about the judges, you want to be careful the first use of any three-letter acronyms. Don't call them TLAs, right? So you want to make sure that you're very explicit when you use acronyms. You're comfortable, you use them every day. It's how you communicate. Some of us don't all appreciate that in our own world. We tend to use those and live in that world. So make sure you're as explicit as possible about use of jargon or acronyms, okay? We talked a little bit about the slides with no graphics. Not telling how you're going to, in this case, use the money. You've got to make sure that that's in there. Make sure that you're realistic. I use the 1% idea. That's probably not appropriate for the pinch thing, but if you're ever in a real VC raising money, you will hear this all the time where someone says, well, all we need to get is 1% of the marketplace and we'll make millions. Nobody owns 1% of the marketplaces in business, right? You're either going to command that marketplace and win that marketplace. Winning is not 1%, right? People want to see how you're going to own or command a dominant position in a marketplace. If you truly have all this, if there's really this big problem and you have this really amazing, unique, novel technology, and you're setting your sights at 1%, that just doesn't hang together, right? Again, we talked a little bit about making sure you create that credibility in terms of eye contact and posture and everything. And of course, anytime you're using slides with mistakes and misspellings, and don't pick on me for any of the ones I have. Okay, I have one other last pitch that I like to show as an example here. This is a little bit longer than 4 minutes, but it's also one of my favorites, and it's much more set up in a setting. Yes?
Greg, in the pitch that you did show us already from Shark Tank,
Yes.
in the rest of it, did he go on to say what happens if your phone runs out of power?
Oh yeah, that question gets asked.
Right?
Yeah, so he asked, they ask about all the problems, right? What if you don't, what if your phone doesn't have power? You can still use your key, right? And they ask about whether it's patented. They want to know about the intellectual property and its protections for barriers to entry so that somebody else can't come in and copy it. So they ask all those questions that really flesh out things that if he had a true 5-minute or 10-minute presentation, he would have discussed that.
So that's a decision we'll have to make. Like, there's plenty of questions that we can preempt, but
Correct.
we should try to choose to leave some for the audience.
Correct.
Yeah, leave some for the judges.
Yeah. So, and that's a great question about measuring what do you put in and what do you take out, right? Because you have this, you're time bound, right? And so you've got to be very careful about the level you talk about and how much content you put in there. So remember, you want to keep it at a level that you get that communicated, you get all those things across, and you don't answer every potential question, right? Just like he didn't. He didn't answer, I mean, you didn't know whether or not that had a patent against it or problems with the technology. Let them fess out. And again, if you're prepared for those questions, which you will be, you come off as, again, going back to these things, more credible and experienced in terms of knowledge of the domain. Sure. Let me. I think I may have popped this up, but already. But let me see. Oh, you can actually do it right here. I'm not used to a Windows machine, so you have to excuse me. Let's see if I can get this. We may not be able to get this. Yeah, I've got to. Let me try this again. Sorry, guys. Let's see if we get this.
Yeah, actually just put
Load up full screen earlier.
Yeah. I don't know if we're this. Oh.
Good afternoon. My name is Kate Kleiner with SOMALEN, and SOMALEN stands for Social Global Learning.
But I guess not.
SOMALEN is the first web-based peer-to-peer learning technology that allows small businesses to raise capital from friends, family, customers, and neighbors, and in doing so provide interest rate return. As such, we're the first debt-based crowdfunding platform to take advantage.
It's not letting us get over here. I apologize about this. Can we
let me try
open
a
it up?
different browser.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe make this bigger here.
This is, again, why you don't ever do anything that's not canned. If you do it live, the last one I had embedded, this one I didn't have embedded. There it is. You got it. With the, okay, so. Perfect. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
My name is Kate Kleiner with SOMALEN, and SOMALEN stands for Social Mobile Global Lending. SOMALEN is the first web-based peer-to-peer lending technology that allows small businesses to raise capital from friends, family, customers, and neighbors, and in doing so provide an interest rate return. As such, we are the first debt-based crowdfunding platform to take advantage of the Jobs Act. There are two main problems that we saw. First, banks are not lending to small businesses. In fact, the Federal Reserve reported in December of 2010 that of companies that are 2 years old or newer, of which there are about 27 million in the United States, 23% never apply for a traditional loan for fear of rejection. Of those who do apply, they're turned down 51% of the time. This means we have about 20 million businesses who can't access bank loans today. At the same time, individuals and corporations are no longer happy with their stock market returns, their passbook savings, and they're taking their future and their financial portfolios back into their own hands and are investing locally. These two problems have created the perfect storm and a new asset class in the peer-to-peer lending industry, which as of just this last summer was boasting an average interest rate return of 10.1% with less than a 2.5% default rate. It's a relatively safe bet for your money. So the theme behind our technology is this: people want to borrow but can't. And people, individuals and corporations, now want to lend. This is a market that's growing exponentially right now. In 2009, it wasn't even worth talking about. Only $500 million was transacted in the peer-to-peer lending space. Last year, $3 billion was transacted in the same space. And with continued tightening of traditional financial institutions and the signing of the Jobs Act, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, and Forrester Research all project this will become a $100 billion market by 2015. So who is our market at SomoLend? We are targeting a very specific borrower, a business borrower. And of the 1,100 borrowers who signed up on our site so far, they're typically 1 to 2 years old, and they're typically asking for about $18,000. On the lender side, though, it's slightly more interesting. At first, we thought banks and individuals would be our only lenders, but chambers of commerce, cities, business associations are also now actively lending on our platform. At first, you would think this is a crowded space. You've heard and read about a lot of these companies in the past, but they're all very different from ours. Very few of the platforms that have popped up so far are debt-based platforms. Many of them are rewards-based and equity-based. And of those that are debt-based, typically they're focused on consumer debt rather than commercial debt. Because we are focused on the business borrower, our site can be completely transparent, so the lender can know who the borrower is, communicate directly with that borrower, and even meet them in person before making their lending decision. Our competitive advantage is that we are social, mobile, and local. For the first time ever, lenders can conduct their own due diligence on an easy-to-use platform, have the convenience of transacting that loan from their use of their mobile device, and for the first time ever, borrowers can raise friends and family capital on an easy-to-use, unemotional website. Now, I raised friends and family capital for my first company, for my Uncle Steve and my mom. My Uncle Steve is a jerk, I found out after, and my mom cried. Who do I pay back first? It's a very emotional decision. If I would have had SomoLend, I would have been able to pay them both back through one monthly payment, even with differing interest rates and differing terms, and I would have been able to remove the emotion. Now, what are the barriers to entry? There are many. First, we are patent pending with the first ever credit underwriting algorithm that incorporates social reputation and behavior into the credit underwriting process. Second, since I've been involved with the Jobs Act since the beginning of the market, I am actually chairing the industry task force that's working with the Securities and Exchange Commission to create the regulations for this industry. I am actually writing barriers to entry for my competitors. And I'm not alone. I've got a great team. So this is my second startup. I have 5 years of securities law experience, 6 years of lobbying experience. Well, my COO, Chris Calvert, is the former COO of Check and Go and is also a securities attorney. My CTO is Russell Bala, the former CTO of Fifth Third Bank and of Check and Go. And my Vice President of Sales, Cheryl Spam, has 20 years experience at SAS Institute and has worked for 2 venture-backed startups. I also have some great directors, including the former CIO of Prosper Marketplace and the CEO of Vermeer Bank America. I make my money through 2 transactions, a transaction fee charged to the borrower based on the amount that they successfully borrow, and a portfolio management fee charged to the lender based on the amount they successfully lend. No one pays us unless they're making money. To date, we have closed on a $1.2 million seed round with products and minimally viable products, and we are opening a $10 million Series A in September 1st of this year, which will help us to fully automate our process, will get us to our mobile rollout, and will help us to ramp up our customer acquisition. And I welcome questions and comments at this point.
Okay, so that that is a award-winning presentation. She won that contest. She's won, if you look her up, she's won lots. Thank you for being here. She's won lots of contests. Lots of great things in there. So she starts off describing the problem. She gives you the size of the market. She talks about her competition. She talks about why she's different. She told a great little story in there. Again, a very clever short story about her Uncle Steve and her mother, and kind of a classic thing that anyone could relate to, and how having a service like this would have solved that problem. And she goes in and she says, "This is the money that I need and what I'm going to do with it," and boom. And she did that fairly quickly, right? Even with that collar up, she still did it very quickly. I don't know. I don't know what was up with it. I was going to try it in my next pitch, but it certainly is memorable. I'll give her that. But she's good. She's a great presenter, and she did a great job. She used a little bit of jargon. There's no doubt about it, right? But overall, that was a great presentation. And you see, she covered a lot of the same areas that we just talked about in terms of how you get through this information. Very confident, good eye contact. And if you get a chance to watch this, you'll see she does a great job of handling the Q&A as well. Okay? So with that, I'm open to answering any questions that you haven't had a chance to ask here today. I will tell you that if you would like to meet with me separately or have a phone call or email dialogue or go over anything, I'm happy to be open to do that. Or if you want to try out your presentation on me, I'm very happy to sit in and listen to it, right? So I'm open to helping in any way. Thank you for taking time. I know you're all very busy. I appreciate you taking time here today to listen a little bit about the art of the pitch, and hopefully you had a few takeaways here today. So questions that you have?
I was just wondering, so you said there's an easel. Is there a podium?
I don't know if there's actually going to be a podium. Last time there was not. Last time there was this.
Like, or there's some sort of...
Last time there was just open space and a table with judges. And there were some people who used the easel. They had a couple of things that they would flip up, or the assistant would flip up things. But that's kind of what it was. There's not going to be slides.
Do we have access to the easel ahead of time to make our?
It's going to be it'll be like this, sitting up there, and you
Somebody
could.
has to draw in real time while you're doing your.
Well, that or bring you up your flip chart that you could set on it.
So you can bring a flip.
You can bring a flip chart, yeah. If you're going to use the easel, I would recommend that. But again, part of putting the easel there is it's like something to trip over. So I would, you can use it if you like, and I think some people can do it effectively.
Same rules, though, as you're using slides.
Yeah.
Be careful with how much you put on that slide, and more of a picture is great.
Pictures that you wanted to do.
Right.
I mean, that's a fine way to.
That's a great way of getting the message across, right?
It'd be that size.
Yeah, it'd be that size.
So just bring it, set it up.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, but practice with it, because it takes more time. It's going to take more time for you to get there, set it up, turn the page. You got to keep that all going, and then just like I did here, you're going to turn around on your audience, turn the page. You got to make sure that you've worked through that mechanics so that you maintain eye contact, you still look good.
But there's two people. One of them can be
Yeah.
Vanna.
Absolutely. One could be Vanna White, and that'd be great. But practice that so you're coordinated.
I'll be Vanna.
You look like Vanna, Daniel. I noticed that. Other questions? No?
So the dinner, you said we're going to be sitting with the judges. There's 5 judges, and there is going to be 40 people. What do you mean we're going to be sitting with the judges?
The tables, I know like 10 people tables. I don't know exactly the details of it, but we'll
Yeah, I think
try
8 to 10 people per table,
Yeah.
so
It'll be approximately 2 teams and a judge at a table
Yeah.
while you're eating dinner.
I see.
Are all 4 people from the team eating beforehand, or just the 2 people? Who are
All 4 people from the team, yeah. The 10 finalist teams have 4 folks that sit down and eat early. We didn't want you to have to worry about eating while you were presenting.
How much food is it going to be?
Thank you for that question.
Very good question.
It was a good question. I appreciate you asking it.
For the poster session, what size poster?
Again, we're providing easels, and I think that it's an easel type of thing, not a 4x8. So something that you could fit on an easel would be fine. That's a little more intimate setting, and you're having a lot more direct interaction with the people who are going to be actually, kind of voting on who wins. And so it's a smaller kind of thing. It's not a big 4x8 poster like at a meeting or something. I feel like we've put some numbers up there on that, but if not, we can make sure that they're
yeah, I
circulated.
can send out some numbers
Yeah.
as far as the width of the bottom of the easel.
Yeah, they'll look like these.
So how many people can do the verbal presentation? Did you say 2?
Yeah.
Only 2? There's 4.
Yeah.
Even though there's 3.
There's 4 folks from your team there if you want.
Okay, but 2, maximum of 2 doing the verbal.
Yeah.
And you said that in the judging panel, there's a claim scientist, a business person, a regular person,
A community person, I think was the word.
community, and who else?
I think the other people kind of transcend some of those same expertise.
Yeah.
Science, published professorial science types with business experience mixed in, that kind of a thing.
How much are they looking at, whether it's something new that's being developed here at University of Pittsburgh versus something that's just being utilized?
They're trying to look at, is this a project that can move forward and make a difference? And I think that if it's, I don't think any of you are proposing something that's clearly already out there, or you wouldn't be where you are now, right? And so that's not so important. Again, they're trying to look at that and say, is this innovative and creative? Does this look like it will have an impact? And is it feasible to do what they're saying they're going to do?
The small part of that where you say the impact part would be the impact on a patient population versus the impact of making money, developing something.
The focus is individualizing health care, and so the focus is not making money. And so if there's let's say a small patient group that is the focus of what you do, if this really impacts them and is important, that should be good in that sense.
They can look at the winners from last year, right? Or is there-
Certainly the winners from last year, their 2-minute videos are online. I don't know if we have their pitches online. We ought to see if we could do that, because that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, be helpful, instructive, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we can do that. If we can, we'll post those and let you know.
Yeah, get permissions.
Yeah, there's permissions involved
Sure
there and all that.
everybody will.
We do have them all videotaped, and we have them
Yeah.
all.
We do.
Yeah, so.
You may know some of those folks.
Yeah, you may know
You can
some.
certainly contact them and
Yeah, no,
ask
actually,
them.
you could go online and look at the last winners and send them an email. Say, hey, look, I see you
Right.
won this last year. What can you tell me about
Yeah.
owning the room?
Right.
So.
Can you talk a little bit more about what the poster session is going to be like?
So the poster session is a very lively thing, and so what we'll have is the posters will be in a room that is, I don't know, it's smaller than this. We'll have, the teams will be at their posters. All of the guests will be coming in and encouraged to chat with you, the poster people. We'll provide them with some liquor and maybe an hors d'oeuvre. And early on in that, we're saying the event starts at 5, and then about 5:15 or so, I'm going to go around and briefly introduce each poster, because they all know who you are, right? All your stuff was up online. There were 4,000 people who watched your videos already, and some of them may have specific ones of you they want to come talk to.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure they know where you are. In terms of the people we invite to this, our main goal is getting visibility to your project. We're trying to invite people who could potentially invest, you would want to take this and try to help move it forward in a company, local foundations who could try to move your thing forward. I mean, and if the other flip side of that, if there's someone you want me to invite, you say, look, our stuff is this foundation, it's perfect for what they want. Could you be sure and invite someone from there? Tell me, I will do that. Our goal here is to get people visibility into your ideas as broadly as we can and help you build a network that can help move it forward, even if we can't. I mean, we're obviously going to fund some of the projects that are in the poster session as well, but we know that there's a lot of other resources and opportunities to move forward. So again, and we did that. It was the same thing last year at this thing. Somebody came up to me afterwards and said, there's this guy, we'd really like to have him, and we were able to get him there and everything like that. So tell me if there's people you want there. It's your chance to shine.
Yeah.
It's a little late notice, but a lot of times we can make it work. So. Anything else? I know there's a lot of stuff that makes you nervous about the event, but the stuff that he talks about is really important in just getting the idea across quickly. And we want to try to encourage people to think about how to share their projects, their ideas in a non-NIH proposal format. 'Cause that's great. And we're really good at it here at Pitt.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the best in the world, but
Absolutely.
it's also, it doesn't read well to a broader audience.
How far is the easel from the judges?
So that they can see it. I don't know. We're changing the room design from last time, right? So,
We don't really have it set up
Yeah,
yet,
we
but
haven't-
I mean, there's gonna be a stage, basically, where the judges and the presenters will all be, and, the easel will be there. too.
we'll make sure that the
You
judges can see the
probably
easel.
pick up and move the
Yeah.
easel if you want to move it. to a
Yeah.
certain
And the other thing is, what will happen, you'll make these presentations, the judges will go in the room, we'll have some entertainment. They'll make a decision. The people in the room are just there to applaud, Okay, you're not selling to the whole room, you're selling to the 5 people sitting right there.
Yeah.
There's no popular vote.
Not at this one, no.
Well,
We-
the posters.
Well, with the posters, yeah, in the room with the big presentations, it's the 5 judges. With the posters, okay, the poster session, everybody who walks in there is going to get 3 tickets, okay? And so it's like this Chinese auction at the benefit. So
Right.
as they're going into dinner, they say, hey, put your tickets in one of these bags. And that will count those tickets, and the top 3 probably, I don't know if we specify how many, but the top 2 or 3 are going to win awards. So that's a popularity contest, definitely.
Could be you.
Little advice though for that, and we
You
had
say
this happen
thank you.
last time, where someone walks up and says, this is a really neat idea, I'd like to put you in touch with someone who, might be interested in funding this, and they give you a card, call them back. I mean, we had that problem.
Somebody did?
Subsequent to that, we had people say, I really like that, and I wanted to put them in touch with, my friend Steve, and they never called me back. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do about that, but, do that, so. Anything else? And Greg has other colleagues over at the Innovation Institute.
Yes.
They'd be happy to
We'd be happy to help.
coach you, look at your presentations,
Yeah.
let us talk, and that kind of a thing would be good. So.
Yeah, be happy to help. Thank you very much.
And thank you again very much for
Yeah,
helping us out.
appreciate it.